boredom experiment, I decided to explore the Old Westbury Gardens. The Old Westbury Gardens is the former estate of businessman John Schaefer Phipps, an heir to the Phipps family fortune in Nassau County, New York. The property was converted into a museum home in 1959. It is absolutely beautiful, and I am so fortunate to live right across the street. I have grown up walking through these gardens and admiring its history. Like most people, I don't like being bored. It often involves me reaching for my phone, but more often when I'm bored, I like to go on walks. When I'm at school, I like to go to Onondaga Lake, but when I'm home, I typically go to the Old Westbury Gardens. However, something that I've noticed as a result of being given this assignment is that I only walk through the pretty parts of the garden. Granted, the whole property is beautiful, but there are plenty of trails that I had never ventured down because who wants to stare at dirt? That's boring. I also came to the realization that while I do like to walk, I do it because it feels productive. And to me, if I'm productive, then I'm not bored. Walking around the gardens feels productive and I get to enjoy the scenery. To place myself in a state of boredom, I decided to not walk, but to sit in the woodsy trails of the gardens and just think. I realize that when I'm walking, I'm often thinking of the next place to go, or the architecture and florals around me. But the woods are empty. I was only surrounded by dirt and trees. I would never normally sit in the woods because what fun is that? I'd much rather be preoccupied with the colorful surroundings of the gardens. I ended up doing 3 2-hour sessions sitting in the woods, and it allowed for a lot of self-reflection. I think more so than any walk that I've ever been on because I'm usually distracted by the more scenic views around me. It made me realize that just because I didn't find the trails as beautiful doesn't mean they shouldn't be appreciated. So maybe I was bored, but it certainly had its benefits. I had alone time, there was no one around, and nothing to focus on but my own thoughts. When I do my usual walks in the gardens, I'm often taking photos to send to people, or I'll have headphones in with some music, or maybe I'll bring a book to read. Basically some kind of additional distraction that keeps me occupied, or in other words, not bored. A rule that I wanted to set for myself as I sat in the woods was to have absolutely no distractions, just me and my surroundings. My phone wasn't available because it was recording, so I had nothing to do but just sit. I found myself noticing little details around me that I think usually went overlooked, like the rustling of the leaves, birds chirping, ants crawling around on the dirt, smell of the air. I concluded that boredom leads to observancy. My mind just naturally wanted to focus on something. After a while, I started to think about memories from high school, my plans for the summer, how I feel about being halfway through my time at Syracuse, which is crazy. Despite feeling bored, I don't feel like I wasted my time. I actually think it's really important to set aside time that isn't dedicated to some kind of distraction that keeps you from getting bored. With all of that said, I want to take you on a tour of my usual route of the gardens just to provide some context, and then you will see my boredom sessions in the woods.
and think for a little bit, because this is definitely not somewhere I would normally just pop a squat and take some time to myself. I usually like to walk around the pretty parts of the garden and enjoy all the beautiful flowers, but I think today I'm gonna get bored and switch things up. This is my second day just sitting in the woods, being bored and thinking.